Hello and welcome. Today we bring you Professor Salim Surani, who has been a long time GRSP supporter, faculty members, and a published researcher. He published quite a lot as well. He recently published his book. One of the books, he has published quite a few of them. So congratulations, Dr. Surani, for publishing a recent book.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. I think you asked us to share what it is to about writing book or book chapters. So I think I'll try to go with some of the very high point and overview and what can be done, what needs to be done, and what is going on in the mind of publishers. So now coming to the book, I think in the interest of time, I'll try to go a little bit faster. Obviously the title of the book has to be there, marketing of the book has to be there. So either you're writing or the journal or the publisher is doing, they try to pick out the editors, and then the editors are going to pick out the authors based on the content expert or the area of your specialization. So once the book is formed, the editors or the publishers are going to give the instructions to the authors. That's very, very important. The thing is that most of the chapters goes into form of titles, the authors, the institution, the correspondence author. Either there can be the email of the correspondence author, or sometimes they give the email or details of all the authors, abstracts, keywords, core tips, and then you go into the similar pattern, the introduction, the background, epidemiology, pathogenesis, or whatnot. But the main thing is, again, whenever you're getting the chapter instructions, you have to follow the instruction to the key. Because if you have 25 chapters in the book and everyone formatting is in different form. For example, if somebody is using the font 8, or somebody is using 12, or somebody is using 10, somebody is using a New Times, somebody is using a Roman, somebody is using the other font that's different. The formatting is also very important, because at the end of the day, the authors, the editors have to make sure that everything is formatting from the chapter 1 or to the chapter 30th or whatever the number is, exactly in the same pattern. Each chapter flow has to be the same, because in the journal, when you write the manuscript, the flow can be different. It doesn't matter. But when you're writing a book, each has to be going in the same way. So the chapter formatting can be some of the very basic, like introduction, pathophysiology, diagnosis, clinical feature, treatment, implication, feature implication, conclusion, acknowledgement. But that thing can vary significantly. So if you're writing a book which is just like obstructive lung disease or COPD or pulmonary fibrosis, then what happened is you're having a chapter on the introduction, you're having a chapter on the history, you're having a chapter on the epidemiology and other background. And you may have a chapter on diagnosis and clinical features. So in that case, you may have an introduction which gives a basic. Then you dive into, for example, genetic factors in IPF. So you go into the detail and you can have the subheadings and all that. And obviously, you always want to use the feature implication and conclusion acknowledgement, but you got to sync with the previous and current chapters. And sometimes, the chapter flow is very different. So the editors may be able to give you what chapters has been assigned to which authors. In that case, you can communicate, hey, if you're addressing that, then there's no point in me addressing that. Otherwise, what happened is towards the end, the editor have to cut a lot of paragraphs and send it back to you. Can I delete this? And that just takes back and forth a lot of time process, because in manuscript, it's very easy, because one manuscript is finished, done, reviewer is done, recommendation is done, you go in. In chapter or the book, if there's 30 chapters, you're depending on 30 authors, and each chapters may have multiple authors. So for example, I had a book in which there were 128 authors. Each one has to be in the sync, and each one has to do the copyright waiver. Each one has to do all the necessary things. So I think the communication, and it's very important that even when you're forming the outline of the chapter, you may want to run it with the editor and see, hey, you know what, do you agree? And he will say that, hey, you know what, pathophysiology and clinical features are going to be discussed in detail. You may want to take a diagnostic approach, but the radiological diagnostic approach you don't want to deal, because we have a chapter on that. So I think that will make your life easy, because you're not spending too much unnecessary time on something which has been addressed by something you can get by all those details in one paragraph, so that your flow of that chapter is good, but the details have been done and dealt with the other chapters. So as I was mentioning, the chapter formatting, font, indentation is very important, because you want to have a consistent referencing style is very, very important. Even if you take a Vancouver style. So the EndNote or the Mendeley or Zerato can tell you what the style is, but some journal may want it that, hey, you know, I want to use a bracket instead of parenthesis. So it's very important, because each one has hundreds of the references. So in the end, the editor or the copy editor have to go and change your bracket to parenthesis. And if you have your stuff in different formatting like EndNote, it can become challenging. The table is very important. Anytime you write a table, make sure that it's not saved as the JPEG or PNG, because you want the table to be a formatable table, because that's very, very important. Because if you're going to be having a table which is a picture image, the editor cannot, because you can't have one table with a font of 10 and the formatting in Roman, and the other one is Times. So I think, there would be a very, very different formatting issue. So I think if you follow the consistent what the journal is telling or the publisher is telling, I think you will avoid that challenge. Now, coming to the figures, it's very, very important. I think anytime when you're writing it, you don't want your chapter to be very dry. You want to have some tables, you want to have some figures. So I think if you're writing a table, make sure you mention whether it's created by your own, it is modified from some other place, and make sure you give the reference. Or if you're getting it from some other journal, then you may need to make sure that you have the copyright release. Otherwise, that's going to delay the whole process. The other thing which I've very commonly seen is that sometimes you forget to label the table in the text, because the text, you need to show where the table is, because that tells the publisher or editor to see when they're in the final formatting stage where to put your table in. So you don't want your table number one where you listed in wanted to do into page 2, and they are putting it after page 25, because the readers are going to completely lost, because the table will pop up randomly. So your table citation in the text is going to tell the publishers or the editor where to put the table. Figures, again, same thing. If figure is coming in from some other journal, do you have a copyright release? If not, if it is modifiable, have you referenced and cited it properly? Now the figure is very important, whether you want the figure in black and white or color. The important thing is you want to tell the journal if it is coming out as an ebook, because if it is an electronic book, then color figure doesn't matter. You can make your figure or table as fancy, as colorful as possible, because that is going to make it look good. That's going to be easier in reading, especially in the tables or figures or whatever. But if that book is going to be published as a soft cover or a hardcover, then the color is important, because the printing of the color picture is very expensive. So every color picture, the journal can ask you, or the editor or publisher will ask you, that every color picture which you're going to take, they may charge you about anywhere from $60 to $200 a picture. So you can imagine that if your chapter has 10 figures which are color, that can cost you $1,500 to $2,000. Now you can tell the journal that, hey, I don't want to pay for it, just put as a photo gray or black and white. So if you're creating an image which you put in a black and white, for example, a histology slides, or you show a gram stain, whether it's red or whether it's a purple. If you're putting in a black, everything looks black, so you can't differentiate. So you may have to think of the thought process, what figure you're going to use it if you're not going to or want to pay a color. If it is an ebook or electronic book only, it doesn't matter, because it doesn't cost anything. And they will usually like you to make the figures and table as colorful as possible. But if it is a print book, you need to do that. Then again, the publisher will take over. They will go through the proofreading. They will go through the copy editing. They will go through the language formatting, and sometimes some of the language they will change. Some of the publisher will send the language editing back to you for the approval, or some of them have a thing in the beginning that they will do some of the language polishing towards the end, because they want the thing to be consistent. For example, I'll tell you very simply that if you take British or the Asian, they will put center, CENTRE, whereas we'll put CENTER. So a lot of the word is spellings are very different, even though it's the same word. But if you're writing it in the British or Asian style versus you're writing in the European or the US style. So if you have some chapter which is following that style and spelling of the word versus US, that creates a confusion. So the publisher or the authors or editors will change it accordingly. Then, you need to have a publishers who will come up with the title, and they also need a BISEC code, which needs to be selected for your book. The codes are the generic code which is used by the publisher to help the potential buyer, retailer, distributor, and search engine of what your book is about. So they will give you a long list, and they will tell you to pick up 2 or 3, 4 codes. It's just like our keywords, but this is like a publisher keyword. And that is going into the library. So when the librarian buys the book, they may have a budget that, oh, I want to buy certain book with the artificial intelligence, some books in the engineering section. So that helps you to do that. Then after the proofreading and the language editing and the copy editing, they also have a cover page. The cover page usually have a design, and a lot of the time people will try to come up with their some design that go from the gray literature or the Google or something, and then they say, oh, it's open access, and it's in the social web, you can do it. But anytime you want to do that, that would not flow, because if your book is very successful, somebody is going to come up and say that, hey, you copy the design. So design has to be original, and a lot of the publishers will help you to design. If you don't, then you have to create your own design or get a designer who create the front page. Front page also, on the other hand, have some author's detail. And then again, as we go inside the book, beside the chapters and all that, you usually have a forewords, you have a author's bio, you have the chapter index, and then towards the end, it's indexing. How the indexing, you may have seen, if it is an electronic copy or ebook, you don't have to do the indexing, because in the electronic copy, you put it in the search, whatever the word, you click it, the computer will find it for you. But if it is coming in as a hard copy or the soft cover copy, then you need the indexing. The way the indexing does is that the editors or the publisher will tell you to highlight the word which you want to be indexed. So you just highlight the word, and the way it works is they use the Microsoft Word, and Microsoft has a feature, and it will tell, okay, index all the highlight words. So if you have highlighted lymphangiomatosis, it will pick up all the lamb in the thing, and towards the end, it will arrange alphabetically, and it will say it appeared in the page 20, 25, 38, 100, and 200 in C. Or if you have a hypersensitivity pneumonitis, it will pick up all. So you want to do is, if you want to have a hard copy book, then make sure that you pull out all the keywords for the indexing, and you want to appear whatever. And one of the thing is, don't worry, if somebody is highlighted hypersensitivity pneumonitis, you highlighted hypersensitivity pneumonitis, it's no big deal, because the computer is just going to pick out everything which is unique and arrange alphabetically. So indexing looks, in the past, was taking people months job to do that, getting all the work and go through each and every word and page and find if that word is doing it. And Microsoft Word will do that thing for you in less than a minute. Back cover, again, the back cover usually have a ISBN, they may have a QR code, they may have a price, they also may have a design. A lot of the book have a summary of the book on the back, and also they have expert comments about the book. Just like You have the foreword, some of the people who have read your complete book, and they will come in the summary, and that can go into that. The indexing of the book, again, the publisher does a lot of work to index your book in different of the sites. And if you're doing it your own, if you're doing it in Amazon, they may do it, but usually Amazon just do it their self-marketing. A lot of the publishers have the arrangement with the libraries all over the world where they will sell the book to the libraries, so it is available. So your book, you go in either as a hard copy or the ebook is there. Again, I can tell you, you can write 5,000 books. The best of the best book is going to lie in the shelf. And if it lies in the shelf and nobody reads it, it doesn't serve your purpose. So again, the marketing is important. And I've seen a lot of fascinating book. They just get the dust in the shelves. So the marketing, whether it's a social media, it's a LinkedIn, word of mouth, or sometimes even when you're putting it in, you put a link of your book in just under your name, and people can click it and take it to that site. So I think I'll stop here and I'll take any questions. I think I went a little bit over time, but I try to give a bird's eye view of what it takes to publish a book or book chapter from both the author perspective, the editor perspective, and the publisher perspective. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Dr. Surani. This is fantastic.